Hey, everybody. Welcome to This Week in Pre-IPO Stocks podcast. With me, I got Nick Fusco, CEO of ApeView, a pre-IPO secondary market pricing company, and Clint Sorensen, Chief Investment Officer at WellShield, an outsourced CIO and investment research company. So, fellas, this is wrapping up 2023 for us, right? We got Christmas week next week, and then we got the new year after that. So this is an opportunity to kind of maybe take a step back and think a little bit more macro. So I'd sent you guys a few ideas this morning about, not only just hitting on kind of emerging tech trends over the last decade, but then also thinking about what emerging trends were coming for the next 10 years, right? So kind of a 10-year look back and a 10-year forward. I think is like, venture people in the venture capital space, you got to look around the corner a little bit, right? And see what's coming. In venture, that means it may not have even started yet, right? In some instances. So that just puts seeds out there, out in the universe on some of the things that could be coming down the pipe that might be a part of our everyday lives, right? So, so looking backwards in the last 10 years, right? The things that I've seen, apps, just apps on your phone. Like iPhone came out in 2008. Apps didn't exist before then. That was a big one. Mobile, everything was mobile. There was no mobile. It was all desktop. I remember everybody in early 2010s were trying to how am I going to go mobile, right? That was a big trend. Social media, right, just exploded. Electric cars were like a joke back in the early 2010s. Now, it's a part of everybody's life. But what else? Any of those, do you agree with that list? Is there other things that you're thinking about, right, that were kind of big trends?
Internet of Things, a good one. I mean, my microwave, my coffee machine's hooked up, my oven, my refrigerator. I mean, it's nuts.
That's a good one.
And then blockchain.
Blockchain's a good one. Crypto was didn't exist, right? Now that's a part of our...
Blockchain technology is awesome.
That is interesting too, because that was an asset class that people thought was a joke, and now you have proper institutions that are allocating to it, right? I mean, that is pretty powerful in its short period of time that people have gravitated towards it like that.
Different but similar. Almost the way we observe and look at data. I mean, data has become so much more pervasive in everything we're touching. So I like knowledge graphs. They don't get much play, but the relationship of all things, if you go back 20 years, social networks, right? But how that's all interrelated. And now, post-COVID, remote work as a theme, and even more, I think people are trying to go more remote. Clint, I know 3 weeks ago you were talking about SpaceX, kind of Starlink's being used on boats now. So I think people want to get out. They want to get away, off-grid type capacities and more eco-friendly type solutions. I mean, I think that's still big, even though ESG is a bad word now, but I still think it's a relevant thing for technology in the latest 10.
Data is a big one. I mean, that's an obvious one I missed there. Cloud computing, like Amazon, AWS, and Google Cloud. I mean, those things really didn't exist properly, 10 years ago. Now it's, I mean, Nick, would you imagine?
I'll go back 20, but to the extent that they are used now, it's no longer any sort of. No one wants to do internal management.
For sure.
10 years ago, you were at that turn of do we really want to use cloud, or you're suspicious of cloud?
Fair point.
Cloud, everything is cloud native, so that's no longer a selling point for anybody.
I was at a company.
Fracking.
Fracking's big. Energy.
Let's start getting to some of the, and then when you start to think about everything from a energy transition.
Right.
Just amazing amounts of dollars being thrown at clean energy tech.
That's right.
Carbon credits, right? Talk about new markets. Think about that. Think about the carbon markets now, how awesome those markets are. And what did I see? I mean, it's amazing. It's the best time to be alive. I could go on.
For sure.
It's literally the best time to be alive.
But can we agree on this, though? So putting our investor hats on over the last 10 years and thinking about all these trends that we had. I mean, apps was Apple, right? Social media, you got, ByteDance in there and TikTok. You got Facebook and Instagram, right? You got some big ones there. X, right? Electric cars, Tesla. Tesla's, I don't even know what it was, where the stock was trading at 10 years ago.
I wish I knew. I wish I was
I
there.
mean, can you imagine though?
Wish I
That was like crazy, right? That's like crazy. So
Yep.
I mean, but what are any other kind of big like the companies or the actual opportunities around some of those
Chips,
themes that we just thought
look
about?
at NVIDIA, right? Chips, like the usage of AI, like blockchain and AI completely revolutionized that company, right? In terms of
Right.
who was buying those chips and the demand for the chips, these graphic processors. I mean, it's pretty amazing when you think about compute and these new technologies and how much they rely on chips, and NVIDIA was there to kind of capture that.
Right. Right. What do you think, Nick? Any other
Yeah, I
call
think
it a pinpoint?
thematically, it's less hard goods or almost hardware and more software
Right.
or experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've elevated our services game significantly across all these different verticals. And I love when I'm looking at hard goods, maybe I look at cars, but the main advancement with cars is actually like the software.
Right.
You're
Fair.
looking at these
Fair
Teslas
point.
and they say, oh, well, do you want driver assist? And you say yes. They take your money, they hit a button. Guess what? You're at your level X driverless experience, right?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
I truly see that as been a pretty good flow of where things are headed. And I keep thinking when we look about the next 10 years and that sort of thing, I always think Ready Player One in a lot of cases
Yeah.
now, like,
Yeah.
for better or
Well, no.
for
Okay.
worse.
So that's a perfect transition. So like
Wearable tech, yeah.
Wearable tech. Okay.
Yeah,
Wearable tech.
that's
Wearable
big.
tech's a good one too. And I think that actually could be really impactful in the next 10 years as well. It already, I think, has been, but I think it's going to be exponential. Okay. So, but just to put a point on this, because I'm sure we're going to get, at least I have some pretty right field topics to talk about over the next 10 years. But just to put a point on this, because I think it's all close to home for everybody right now. So AI did not really exist in people's lives like 15 months ago, right? OpenAI came out with their offering in like November of 2022. So here we are, it's like 13, 14 months later. And now like everybody's talking about AI. Every single company has AI. Like the glossiness is almost off of it. Like everyone's got an AI strategy, like companies that are downstream like NVIDIA are ripping, right? So that to me kind of highlights the opportunity with technology, these emerging technology trends, right? Where something literally didn't exist. And now 15 months later, it's like the only thing that everyone's talking about. So like what else could come down the pipe, right? Where it doesn't really exist today in our lives and it could be coming down the pipe. So maybe I'll open it up first. Like anything that's top of mind for you guys, Nick, maybe you can kick us off. Like what's top of mind for you? Like emerging technology that's coming down the pipe here in the next 10 years that we should keep our eye on.
All right. I'll catapult us. And I'll give you how I got there.
Okay.
I wanted to get my old man an Apple Watch for Christmas, right? Spoiler, if he's listening, he didn't get it. Right? But part of it is he's been like at the forefront of what I would put in my head as like a biohacker, like wanting to know everything about himself. He goes to the doctor just for kicks, right? He's a big time skier, like has taught for many, many years. He's been everywhere skiing. He's blowing out both his shoulders. He's blowing out both his knees. He's getting them all repaired, all this stuff all the time. He donates a ton of blood because I think he just likes new blood to be regenerated. So I'm thinking he's going to love the watch,
Yeah, right.
Even like a buddy, his father was having a heart attack and the watch told him. So this whole idea of like biohacking and understanding your body and everything that's kind of connected to it, I think is going to be huge, especially our parents' generation and ours. You talk to anybody who runs a marathon and they'll talk to you for an hour about their freaking Garmin, right?
Yeah,
but
right.
I think in this direction, the next leap is going to be something like a Neuralink. And all the things that we want to be able to control that, when you have spinal cord issues or you have mental issues that you can get over using Neuralink as the science behind it or similar, not to tout that their own technology, but it's a company that we track, right? I think that is just next level. And nobody's going to see it coming until the day it hits and we all realize, oh my God, all those things in the science fiction movies, we've seen them come true for the electric cars or flying cars. Maybe that's to come too, like
Right,
drone technology. But I do think that component of biohacking slash humanoid type approach is on the verge, and it's probably in the next 10 years.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Because I mean, there's the wearable stuff. Like Clint mentioned that, Nick, you just highlighted too. But I mean, I've heard of like nano robots in the bloodstream, right? I mean, there's probably a whole bunch of like other. I mean, these things sound wild to say out loud, right? But I definitely think this stuff is coming down the pipe.
Simply put, 10 years ago, or maybe 20, being able to put a camera throughout your body, right, through your intestine system and through this. Think about how small that camera has gotten and how infinitely better the resolution has gotten.
True.
From a 360 pixel to a 720 to a 4K in your intestine with something this big, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Just amazing. And then you compare that to anything else we're going to do, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's a good one. So, Clint, what's on your mind? What do you think is some interesting emerging tech here over the next 10 years?
I mean, I think ultimately AI enabled or is enabling and will enable a collective consciousness that unites humanity more than it is currently united. So I think there's just such a scramble for populism and polarity, and I feel like AI is can play a contributory role to pull humanity together around critical issues. So I'm really excited about that philosophically. I think the healthcare applications are phenomenal. If you start to think about like nano treatments where you can use lasers to directly target tumors, right? Through using nanoparticles. When you start to think about sound and the ability to literally target tumors with sound, I mean, the exponential age is going to expand those life tech type of organizations in a way that just only benefits humanity long term and aids in longevity. And I'm really, really excited about that. I know we talked about weight loss drugs. I think a lot of preventative things. I think the biohacking. I think helping individuals live healthier lives. I think we need a lot of work on the way our food in this country is manufactured and produced. I think we need a lot of work there, but I'm optimistic that I think we're going to leverage technology to improve that. And I'm really excited just about the direction that we're heading from a human perspective.
Yeah.
And and I think it sounds like everybody, if you read the media, if you stay glued to news, I feel like people can lose some of this. They miss it, right? They see such and such group fighting with such and such other group. I don't think that's the case at all. I think we're in a great awakening philosophically, and I'm really, really excited about it. And I think technology is providing kind of that pathway towards that. And it's an awesome thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, AI. I mean, we have an AI in pharmaceuticals too, right? To your point, Clint. Like, there's a whole bunch of people that have been speaking about how AI can help accelerate the development of pharmaceuticals for both preventative as well as treatments, right? Which could be, I could see that going exponential in the next 10 years.
Think about genetic-based preventative supplementation, right? Like just AI is going to be able to facilitate more targeted, personalized healthcare in general, not just pharmaceuticals or treatments, but in general, personalized healthcare. And I think, Steve Jobs said it best when he said, if you can deliver personalized advice over the internet, you've kind of achieved the ultimate.
Yes.
That's precisely what AI is going to allow us to do, is offer personalized advice that is catered to you as an individual.
That's right.
And I think that is just phenomenal.
Yeah. So to play that out from an investment perspective, right? I mean, I think we could probably all agree that like OpenAI, Anthropic, Cohere, Google, right? Google's AI solutions. Those are like platforms. Those are going to be the new like Apple app stores, right? Where other people like the three of us can get together and start a pharma company based using AI that will sit on top of OpenAI and crank out drugs, right? As an example, or research around pharmaceuticals, or like, one thing I read some articles last week about how every single kid will have their own tutor, right? Their own AI tutor, specifically custom designed for their particular educational needs. You know what I mean? Like but I don't think anyone's building that themselves. They'll just sit on top of OpenAI. They'll have their own special data, right? That they'll have pulled in somehow, and their own data source, and create these new solutions. But those platforms, I think, are interesting to look at from an investment perspective. And then the ones that sit on top, so it'd be like buying Apple, before they came out with the iPhone. That would have been a good investment, right? But then there's also these companies that would sit on top, and that could be, like a TikTok. It's an app that sits on top of the Apple App Store platform. That's
I think
coming
data
up. So,
as an asset class. I think
That's
data as an asset.
Yeah, Clint's nailing it. I think at some point you're going to have a saturation of what AI platform is the best, but the one that will outperform will be the one with the most information, the one with the best data on the way in, right?
Sure.
It's like if you put two data scientists in a room and one is worse, but he or she sits on better data, guess what? They're going to outperform.
Right.
Yes. Or give a better result or model. So, yeah, I mean, then you have to come into the mix and say, who's sitting on the best or most important data for what I'm working in. So if we're trying to develop drugs and OpenAI sits over like Bayer and Eli Lilly and all these other companies that are purpose-built with the data feeding in, and Google is sitting on top of Walgreens or something like that, and maybe it's just a different set of data, one will be highly conducive to making sure like you get your repeat prescription, and one will actually be the creator of things, right?
Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah, I err with Clint. I think there's going to be a leveling of the production of the AI, generative AI model, but it's all about the data, what's sitting underneath it.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
that's like firms like Databricks
for the individual. Right? Think about what Alaska did with oil for its residents, where it gave everybody gets a check in the mail because they're sitting on so much oil, right? Imagine that we instead of, I hate to say this, instead of prostituting ourselves out to advertisers and using our data or tricking individuals, I'm not going to pick on any one platform, but tricking individuals by going against 5 million years of evolution mentally to trick them into using your app and staying addicted to your app, capitalizing on addictive personalities. Instead of doing that, why don't we incentivize human beings by actually paying them for the data that they have? That I feel like is a far more beneficial method to society to grab data. And I think that is the future. Ultimately, the individual will realize their value if it goes that direction. And I hope it does. I'm confident it will, but that's data lies with us, right? They need individualized data. If you're going to offer individualized, personalized advice, you have to have that data, and that data is worth gold.
Yeah, it's the lifeblood. It's the lifeblood.
I actually did one of the APU censuses today, talking about our increase, decrease in employment, increase, decrease in delivery times, increase, decrease in AI, increase, decrease in this and that. But the census, that sort of thing, that will become significantly more real at the government level, so we can understand each other. And then just like the dumbest version of how I relate to what Aaron was saying, the tutor is going to be tailored to your kid. The tutor is going to be tailored to you. I mentioned my dad was a big skier. I used to teach snowboarding for many years, and the thing that was drilled into us was everybody learns differently. So when you've got a group of a half a dozen kids out there, you need to understand that one wants to learn visually, one wants to learn through hearing it, and another wants to learn by doing it and the sensation, right? So once we can learn more about you or your child, that's how we could figure out, how are they going to learn? Do you want to probe with questions, or do you want to say it once and they got it, like that sort of thing? It's we are more than ever the commodity.
Yes.
So that we could keep feeding the system back our own information to benefit us in the future in the long run, right?
Yes. So
that opens up universal basic income. You really start to extrapolate that out. You start to have to have that conversation at some point.
Yes. So to that point, Clint, you got so AI, I think, reverberates across all of these other emerging trends, because I don't think you can have
well,
a lot
AI
of
is
these other
just
things happening.
processing data, right? AI is just machine learning, right? And that's what it is. It's just machines learning. So I think at the end of the day, that's just the processing of the data.
Right.
But that's only, the output is only as good as the inputs, which you always go back to that data being the most valuable, the MVP here.
That's right. That's right. So with the data feeding that with AI, right? You know, Tesla just this past week came out with their new robot, that Optimus Generation 2 robot, right? The thing's incredible. I believe that we're going to have robots in our houses in 10 years time. Like, the days of cleaning a bathroom are over, right? There's going to be a robot that will do that for us. Yeah, and I was telling this to my wife the other day, and she was looking at me like I was crazy. But I'm like, I truly believe there'll be a robot like hanging out in the family room, and we'll walk downstairs and have some name from it, like, "Hey George, today I want you to do X, Y, Z," and you give him a list of stuff to do, and then you leave for the day, and then you come home and like it's done, right?
There's your IoT, right? The connectivity of the house. Yeah, for sure.
All of it. So I think there's that. I also think, Clint, to your point around universal basic income, like, you're going to have in 10 years time, you'll have like, I don't know, 15 million robots running around in the United States, building houses, doing whatever. Like, I don't know what the number would be, right? But you'll have robots making robots that will go out and do stuff. And like, that's going to end up like a big part of the population probably won't have a lot to do, right? Hence the universal basic income. But like, I think that's like, what are your guys' thoughts on these kind of humanoid robots and how they're going to like impact society, and what's kind of, or maybe a better question, do you think it's actually going to happen? Do you think we'll have a lot of humanoid robots in 10 years time where they're like everyday part of our lives?
I don't know about humanoid, right? Because I don't know how practical that is. But robots, absolutely. Imagine if you could have a robot paint your house for you. You had a plumbing robot. You had a robot that fixed the roof, right? I don't know if they necessarily have to look like there's some aspects of being a humanoid that aren't exactly efficient for doing those functions. So,
right, fair.
But yeah, I could see robots doing absolutely all of that.
What do you think?
So here's a business idea. Here's a business idea. Putting your private equity hat, your investor hat on. Buy up all these type of trades that have established clientele.
Right.
And then start investing in R&D to develop robots to accomplish these things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where it be wearable tech, right? There's cameras you could put, make all your service people where start first helping
with the
data.
Human, get the data.
But just gathering all of that data, training algorithms, just process that data so that ultimately that can be fed into a robot that's designed from an engineering perspective to do those things.
That's what Tesla did. They built an electric car, got everyone to buy it, drive it, and now they're gathering up all that data so they can do self-driving cars, right? So that's a great playbook. It's an awesome playbook. What do you think, Nick? What do you think on the robot side of things in our lives in 10 years' time?
It's going to look very different than, I was trying to quickly look it up, not the Jetsons maid. Dorothy, or I forget what her name was.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
I can picture it.
I think it'll look super different than that. I truly believe it is more like the Internet of Things, that it's not that robot running around your house and scrubbing your toilet and then flipping on the lights for you and things like that. It's just the whole ecosystem of your home, let's say, will be connected well enough that it's a combination of your Amazon Alexa or Google thingy.
I see what you're saying.
And your iRobot Roomba that goes around and does the vacuuming. Like, different things are just going to do different components of it.
Fair.
Humanoid, I almost think about, like, remember that other league of football that didn't have restrictions on, like, steroids and stuff?
Yeah.
It's going to be something like that.
XFL.
XFL. It'll be that for humanoids, which will be pretty cool to watch. Entertainment. We've got to get. Yeah. But that almost leads me to the reason, like, why was the Colosseum built by Caesar? To keep the people from revolting?
Yeah.
It almost brings us back to that universal basic income. We will have a lot more time. We will have a need to level the playing field and have people not left out, because if you think about it, when you bring in that level of robotics or lower level of AI to do remedial tasks, you are potentially upending the balance of the bottom 50% or quartile of people out there that are doing a lot of these jobs that can get automated away. You'll have to have some sort of universal basic income, I think. And I'm going to go Andrew Yang on this and say that he's kind of right, because let's just say Clint's a multimillionaire and I am not. When we throw $12,000 to him, it's not going to make a big dent. When we throw $12,000 to me, it will. Yeah. And that will, yes, encourage a little bit of inflation, but not to the same extent that everyone is expecting. Yeah. So I think some component of that universal basic income will be important. Right. And also the fact that we're going to have the infrastructure to assist people with the health issues and how to utilize their time in a good way. So yeah, everything will change way more rapidly than it has done in the last decade, I would say.
So I think that universal basic income is definitely going to happen. I would say, though, in the long run, I think humans will find a purpose for themselves, right? That will ultimately give their, now that might be art or might be some other thing, but I think most people are not artistic. That's the sad truth, right? So they'll find something else to do, to make them feel productive and add value to society. I just truly believe that, right? The thing that I think where universal basic income will come in is some of these changes will happen so fast, people won't be able to make that change, right? Like they'll have been, whatever, in construction or a plumber or an accountant, right? Their whole lives for 40 years. And now all of a sudden they can't do that anymore. So it's like, oh my gosh, like what do I have to learn a whole new skill set, right? And like by next year, because there's no more accountancy jobs anymore, right? There's like AI that does that for everybody.
You just hit on a big thing, and just to get Clinton excited for this, isn't that going to drive down inflation? So if we could,
it's deflationary.
We could bring down the cost of new housing builds, right? Amazing. Like we need to do that. And if we could attack it in such a new way using technology and infrastructure generation rather than raising rates to combat it, right? That seems brilliant to me and more sustainable, right?
Okay, so
I love that because everybody's so scared of deflation because of the effect on asset prices, and that's what kind of gets you this dichotomy between what's really good for the long-term individual and what's bad. And so this whole fight against deflation, I could go on a soapbox here. I think it's responsible for the massive amount of inequality we have. Or at least it's maybe not wholly responsible, but it's definitely a contributory factor when you think about all the QE and ongoing bank bailouts and all the money thrown into the system, which is inherently deflationary, but they don't think so, right? All that monetary policy is extremely deflationary, but yet it causes asset price inflation to continue to create these issues of inequality, like things are just too expensive to buy, like housing affordability being at a historic low. So, historic problem. And I think all of these things all technology is inherently deflationary, technological innovation, but that's not a bad thing. It's great for humanity. It's just bad for our current system. Bad being for the people who are don't want to see their fiefdoms in, right?
Yes. I mean that's the kicker though. I think like this is where I truly believe, and this is why I wanted to talk about with you guys, right? Like this next 10 years to 20 years, there's going to be such a rapid evolvement and development of technology that like human beings we're not going to be able to process the change. It's going to be so much change so fast. Right. It's going to be hard for like everybody to really comprehend it. And then certainly not markets or businesses or even investors. Like, I just think everyone is just going to be taken by surprise,
So
we hit AGI, and I don't know when that's coming, but if that comes in like the next 5 years, so there's a lot of people saying that's coming in like 5 to 10 years time. That's it. Like, that's it. Like there's just going to be like Musk talks about AGI happening, and then there's like no one needs to work anymore. Like in a very short period of time, like AGI will just kind of like solve all these problems. There'll just be solutions all over the place, right? So That's the thing that's going to be interesting. As investors, though, I just see I'm like salivating at the opportunity, because there's going to be. I don't think, Clint, to your point,
up until
I
that
don't
point.
think it's like the current. I don't think it's like the existing top 25 firms in the S&P 500 are going to be the ones that will. There will be companies that show up out of nowhere, like an OpenAI, right?
Totally.
That's showing out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they're like, boom, they're going to be like $1 trillion company, and I think that's just going to happen. I mean, that happened really over the last 10 years, 20 years for sure with the internet, right? But I think that's going to happen now. I think there's going to be another multiple kind of several chunks of new companies that haven't even started yet. Some have started, some haven't even started yet. And they're going to be $1 trillion, $2 trillion, $3 trillion companies in like a very short period of time, all on the back of kind of emerging tech. So, yeah, man, it's a very
As Raoul
exciting
Pal
time.
said, he calls it the exponential age. He says we're in the exponential age. And I just love that whole thought process where this isn't a linear growth path any longer. This is a massive, we're taking leaps now. Whereas you'd get a leap once a generation.
Correct.
We're taking leaps once every year now.
Right.
Leaps.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. Like I said, this is the best time to be alive.
There's going to be a lot of disruption though, right? I mean, I can just see there'll be a lot of political disruption because the tech's moving so fast. Like people just won't be able to handle it,
what
right?
Does politics mean? Polyticks, multiple blood-sucking insects. Yeah, if you think from a scarcity mentality and that is your bread and butter, yeah, this is a terrible time to be alive and you are going to be disrupted.
Sure.
But don't look, the disruption's all about perspective. Disruption is all about opportunity.
Right.
If you think about it that way. So yeah, whether you want it to be good or bad, it's up to you. Have fun.
That's the old, my favorite back in economics class, my favorite phrase was creative destruction. That was the best, right? I love that phrase, so that's it. All right. So any parting thoughts, Nick, emerging tech?
The three of us were too young to truly capitalize on the 90s. We're getting our crack now.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah. What do you think, Clint? Any parting thoughts on for the next 10 years?
I mean, I think we're going to look back on this and realize that we didn't even scratch the surface of what is going to happen. And I can't wait to see it. I mean, you start to think about it, cancer being eradicated, right? Heart disease being eradicated. Hopefully with AI, suicide, drug addiction, all that nonsense being eradicated. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for just a consciousness increase, exponential consciousness increase, and hopefully it's tech. I think tech could help us all get there. If we use it properly, it's a tool, right? We create tools.
Right. Yeah. Yes, that is true. I think there's a lot of, so net, it sounds like everyone's very positive, right? And I certainly think as investors, people should be seeking this stuff out. I think this is the next big opportunity, right? I don't think it's going to be in airline companies and more traditional energy companies. I think there would be like new energy
with
companies.
All this newfound free time, guess what? We're going to Tahiti, man.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Well, we'll do that. We'll do that with in the metaverse,
VR,
right, Nick.
Okay, there we go.
But maybe right? Maybe they get revolutionized. I mean, I was looking at some maybe tech helps those. I was looking at some airline that was not airline, but aircraft manufacturing company that was talking about not only flying cars that we see, but getting from New York to Paris in like an hour. So you're talking. Awesome. I mean, think about just adding time is your most precious asset if you think about it that way, right? Your moments are all you have. So the closer you get to savoring moments through that is like the benefit. So you need more time. Yeah. So anything that saves time is going to ultimately be a benefit to humanity, to individuals, and could be a big business. So I wouldn't knock down the traditional industries. I would just knock down the way with which they operate.
Understood. Yeah. Fair point. Look to add as opposed to knock them down. Fair point. So, okay, this is good, fellas. I'm excited. First of all, thanks for this past year. This is our first kind of full year doing the pod, right? So it was a ton of fun. I think we had some success. Yeah, it was cool, man. And I'm looking forward to keeping the gang together here into 24. But have a good holiday, okay? And I will see you guys. I will see you guys in January.
For anyone listening to the end, happy holidays. Bring on 2024.
That's right. Come on, let's go. All right, fellas. I appreciate you. You guys take care.
You guys.